This week we are lucky enough to have one of the world's best coaches with us today, Doug Staley. On this episode of the Iron Huddle, we'll be going all in on entrepreneurship, business, coaching, training, recovery, nutrition, and philosophy with Doug Staley. Finally, this episode of the Iron Huddle is sponsored by Torque Strength and Conditioning. Torque Strength and Conditioning is a great place to work out, and they offer you a variety of programs such as Torque CrossFit, Torque Barbell, Torque Fit, personal coaching, and youth and teen development. So go check them out in the video's description.
All right, so what do you consider yourself? Are you a personal trainer? What would you call yourself, Doug?
Definitely a personal trainer. Strength coach, whatever you want to call it. I use personal trainer as the term just because I work in private with people.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But yeah, other than that.
And you're brought to us by Under Armour today?
Under Armour, no. Brought to you by Ben & Jerry's and Half-Baked.
Yeah, we all are. Ben & Jerry's. So how'd you get in all this? What's your background?
So originally, I started when I was, it's an aggressive point, when I was 13, basically lifting for football. Same story like 90% of powerlifters have is you're the big kid, a little overweight, kind of under strength, and just wanted to get better at sports. So our coach at the time, thank God, was kind of well versed. He was going to school for his degree in exercise science at the time, and he kind of took us under his wing. 5 or 6 of us actually wanted to do it. And it took off. It was something I was good at, like, really quickly, like, other than bench, which still is an issue we don't talk about. But my squat and my deadlift, like, blew up right away.
So were you guys doing, like, the BFS type stuff? Or
yeah, it was definitely bigger, stronger, faster,
yep,
whatever
yes,
that. Yeah, that. But it was also stuff he was doing. And it was cool because, like, looking back, now that I have a little bit of, like, knowledge in this, like, it was actually a really good program because we hit an off season and we did, like, sort of a volume phase, and then as we kind of got closer to summer, he was doing the volume down, up in the speed, all that stuff, and so he was doing pretty good. So I started out with a really good coach, and then he got busy with school, moved, and all that stuff with a job, I think. And then a friend of my dad's was big into lifting weights. He was a thrower in college, all that stuff, and basically put me into, like, what I term a powerlifting split now, where for sure, like, we were squatting.
Split?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sports, which isn't great, but I got strong and I got big, and it was good. And I learned a lot about technique and kind of, writing programming, not to the sense to where, like, you know what you're doing with loading schemes and that stuff, but, like, pairing exercises, right? You learn big movements paired with little movements, or you learn what's a complex multi-joint lift, what isn't, stuff like that, and then just kind of how to put stuff together so it made sense. So I'm very lucky at a young age, 13 to 15, had 2 good mentors that kind of brought me up, I would say, correctly. But yeah, so very happy about that. And then moving into high school, still wasn't good at sports, but I was good at lifting weights. And, at the time, you don't realize that lifting weights can be, like, something you can do, right? As far as, like, I can be a personal trainer, strength conditioning, or whatever that may be. Then I'm taking weightlifting classes in high school. A, I don't like school. B, I like to lift weights. So that's pretty simple, right? So I took, like, 2 a year at least, 2 weightlifting classes a year, and just kind of learned more about it. We started learning about anatomy of it and all that, and it all just kind of made sense. It was for the first time, like, school, like, made sense. I don't think that I have, like, a learning disability, but I have I don't like to go to school disability. So yeah, man, like, the science just made sense to me, and it all just, like, fit. To whereas you go to a math class and I was like, why are there A's in it? Like, why is there letters in math? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, like, with science, it was just kind of something that clicked.
Yeah. So did weightlifting have a carryover effect of confidence through that? Or
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say I was ever, like, unconfident, but definitely, like, the quiet kid, kind of withdrawn, a little soft.
Yeah, a little strange, people are wondering about.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And, like, the biggest thing that I noticed with it was I got, like, confident in myself and what I could do, and, like, I wasn't super concerned what people thought a whole lot anymore because, like, I hit my freshman and sophomore year of high school and I was stronger than most of the seniors. So, like, for me, like, those guys were asking me questions. Great. And that, for me, was like, your ego skyrockets a little bit at first, but then after that, it was just kind of like, what can I do with this? And at the end of the day, like, my dad owned a shop at the time. I was working on cars, and I worked there, and I worked at Cenex and stuff, and I thought I'd be turning wrenches for my whole life, going to, like, a tech school. And then, like, my senior year of football kind of worked out, and started getting some recruiting letters and started kind of looking at that, and I was like, oh, well, what would I do with if I had to go get a 4-year degree? And, like, my strength and conditioning coach / trainer / whoever's at school is like, dummy, you can be a strength coach. Yeah. Like that's a thing. And she's like, I was like, oh, and she's like, that's what I do. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. So I was like, cool, let's do that. So I ended up going to Dickinson State University.
Where's that?
North Dakota.
Oh,
middle of nowhere.
That's why I never.
But what sold me, the one coach, Coach Hoffman, like clockwork, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6:15 in the morning, my phone would ring every morning. So that was a big selling point. Then when we toured, the Performance Center was old, but it had some of the best equipment you'll see. Like we had force plates, big force plates, like high dollar, like $30,000 force plates. We had a sprint treadmill with a force plate in it where we can measure all the horizontal, lateral, all that stuff for the force, stride frequency. We had 2 other sprint treadmills, and then we had a plow set up. And have you guys ever heard of Agaton machines? Okay, so not many people have because there's like 10 of them in the U.S. There might be more now, but then there's like 10. We had 3. Eccentric and concentric overload. It's air driven, so as you come down, you have the eccentric, which could be like 400 or 500 pounds, and then your concentric on the other side, which is whatever. So on the eccentric loading, you have heavier weight. Air pistons kick in as you come up, eccentric shoots up, and then you dynamically move the concentric weight. So like when I was in there, and he knew I liked to lift weights. There was an O-line coach who was also our strength coach, who's still probably one of my biggest advisors, people that have helped me a lot in this whole thing. But he's like, yeah, you like to lift weights. He's like, there's a lot of colleges that look prettier than this one, but not a lot of colleges that have what we have. So I pretty much signed that day. And it's, you get to play a little football, go to college, lift some weights, do whatever. But
and that's an NAI, right?
NAI, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they used to be in the Dakota Athletic Conference. That has since been taken away. We were in the frontier for a while, played Montana and all those schools. Last 2 years there, and now they're back in some conference that's basically the DAC. That's it's not a good conference. Northern Stars and shit like that.
Yeah,
So what was
they've
your
changed
biggest-
a lot of that stuff in the last few years.
Yeah.
Who was your biggest route? Was it Mary? Was it Jamestown?
So it used to be Mary,
Yeah.
but then they went D2.
Okay.
So when I was playing, I fucking hated Blackfield State. Like,
Uh-oh.
I'm from there, so
Yeah.
I'm from Sturgis. I was
That's
being
where you
recruited
grew
by
up?
You're from
Blackfield
Sturgis?
State.
Oh,
Yeah, Sturgis.
I'm
South
from
Dakota.
Rapid.
Oh, really? You took Minnesota to me.
We're just best friends now.
So we grew up 20 minutes from there. I knew the head football coach like forever. Not well, but knew who he was. My sister was in his little brother's wedding as a bridesmaid. So like there's some history there, right? Just called me once and was like, yeah, we'd like to get you up for an interview or for a tour and all that stuff. And went up there, checked it out. Then it was kind of like radio silence, and I was like, well, Dickinson was calling me every week. Dickinson beats Black Hills State, so I was like, well, I'm gonna go there. And so it's kind of funny. So that's why I went to Dickinson State. They were giving me a good offer, great school, all that stuff. But so then I redshirted, played for the next 4 years. I was a 4-year starter at center. We beat Black Hills every year, except for one game where we didn't play very well, but beat them every year. Then we lost to them my third year in 2010. We lost to them by like 3 points, and we came back and shut them out 28-0 in the Fargo Dome. So
Nice.
Did you guys have a pretty intense off-season program for weightlifting?
yeah,
and strength training?
So acceleration is kind of popular around here. It's kind of diminishing now.
Yeah,
There's a lot-
definitely.
But we ran something very similar to that with the sprint treadmills, because that's what we had basically. But yeah, I mean, we had a 10-week program that was like, we would sprint for anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, not like continuously, obviously, but like we'd run different bursts, 6 to 8 seconds, 10 seconds, different inclines. Like those treadmills went up to like 40 degrees, and
Yeah.
we'd run like 30 miles an hour. So, and we do that and we lift. And like, at the time, it was different than what I'd ever done, because I definitely ran a powerlifting split all the way through high school. Like, it's been, and then we get there and I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm not getting stronger. We're fucking running in the off season. Like, this is dumb. Like, running's for like the summer when you're getting ready. And then like, we never maxed and never did any of that stuff. And then at the end, like, we kind of get a 3-rep max at the beginning, then we test out, and we always got stronger, like a lot stronger. Like, I was mentioning 355 when I came there, and I think I put 405 up going into my like first off season, like after my first off season before fall camp, spring camp. Sorry.
For bench or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we didn't deadlift a whole lot. He just didn't like the way it loaded the QL.
Yeah.
We cleaned a lot.
What's QL?
I don't know what the term is, but it's
Quadratus
low back.
laborum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
Nick's
okay.
smart, so Nick knows.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
all I know is QL. It's a little muscle in the low back that if
Okay.
that fires to the glute, it's a bad deal.
So what
You see it a
guys
lot with
do-
football players.
Yeah.
It's just something that the return of risk isn't there where it is with cleans.
Right.
So would you put more emphasis on like power cleans or stuff
For
instead?
football, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd power clean, we'd hang clean.
Okay.
We'd bench and we'd squat, and our squats were a lot of times front squats, just for the no spinal loading, because we could agaton with our. So we'd run our leg stuff would primarily be leg agatons, and we had hip sleds that you could jump with. So they're on like 8-foot tracks. You could load it with up to 600 pounds. You could jump with it. So we do single leg work with that. We do a ton of unilateral work, and that was our biggest thing. And like then we would test our back squat, and we had a back squat for 10 weeks. I was like, this is great. Can't wait. And I think I squatted like 550. And cross trainers, no belt, nothing. Just walked out and smashed it. And it was like, okay, there's something to this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, here we go. And then I started getting my exercise science classes there, and like he was one of the professors. And then so I was double majoring in exercise science and physical education. Dropped the physical education part because I had no interest in being a gym teacher, like at all. And everyone I knew that was in that program was getting to be a gym teacher. So I was like, well, that's no interest to me at all. Like, so I dropped that, got a coaching minor, and then basically worked the acceleration program is what it was throughout the summers for them. And then my last 2 years there was able to work as part of the staff, sort of, and then worked a part-time job till I moved out here when my wife got into her master's program at the University of Minnesota. So moved out here, and I met with Cal in February of Cal Dietz at the U. Yeah.
Okay.
I met with him in February of 2012. I think it was 12. Anyway, and we met. We talked for like 2 hours. He's like, yeah, I don't really have anything out here, and we don't really hire people without masters or whatever. But if you want an intern, like we could do that. And I was like, yeah, cool. How much does that pay? And he's like, and he kind of looked at me, and he's like, you haven't been like nothing like that. And I said, no, I've been paid for everything I've ever done. Like, and he's like, yeah, we don't pay our interns. And I was like, oh, well, that doesn't sound. I can't pay the rent on that and stuff. So. We moved out here, ended up starting personal training at LA Fitness down in Midway. It was an experience I learned really quickly that it was something I excelled at because the specificity for me was huge, meaning I could program for each client individually and see the results, whereas with strength conditioning, you program for a result for a broad spectrum. Right. So some kids get really good, some kids don't, and that's because you just have to kind of get the general weakness point and do what you have to do. So for me, it made sense. Still thought I'd make my way into strength conditioning, but it was 4 years. Decided to go back to my master's. I'd opened a business at that time, so I was independent after that, which was a huge jump. I started at a gym in Maplewood and basically decided one day sitting in my car in between clients at Edina LA Fitness that I was like, I can't do this anymore. It was one of those things where the training, the people were great, my clients were great, and all that, but I just couldn't do the corporate. People. 30-minute sessions, they're getting raked over the coals. I think they're paying like $60 for 30 minutes of your time, and a lot of times it's just certified personal trainers. And nothing against that. I don't have anything against it. It's just one of those things, right? I had a guy blow his engine in his car, and they wouldn't let him out of his contract because he'd signed it. So for me, I was like, well, that's not how I operate. That's not my business model. That's not my mentality. And then just got sick of it. The trainers I was working with, I wasn't growing with them. So I made a phone call to a chiropractor in Maplewood that owned part of the gym that I trained out of, and was like, hey, I heard you're looking for a guy that needs you want someone to run the computer and do that stuff. I said, can I do that on the side while I start personal training people there, just as a way to kind of get afloat? And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. So I did that for like 5 or 6 months as I built my book back up, got full, and then went full-time personal training independently since then.
Very cool.
So a lot of trials and tribulations with that. A lot of nights where you don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. And then it's just cool when it does, and you kind of get to a point that you're busy, which is good. Yeah. And then you're a source of knowledge for people, and you're getting reached out to for programming and all that stuff. It just comes out to be a good feeling.
So how long did it take you to build your book back up to where you are now? And then how many places do you train out of? Or is it just that one place, or how many are you at right now?
Yeah, so right now I tried training out of 2 about a year into being independent, just as a way to open up my book. So I was at Southside Athletic down in Burnsville, and I was at a place in Maplewood. Well, those 2 places are 35, 40 minutes apart. Yeah. So I can literally only take clients either in the morning at one, in the afternoon at the other, or vice versa. And what I learned really quickly is it's like, when you're independent and you're not at like an LA Fitness or something like that, not a lot of people like to work out in the morning. So like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., like I'm busy there now, but I wasn't when I was trying to split time. So what I learned is I do one location now because then I can be there whenever people need me.
Yeah.
So if I have a guy that's like down in Burnsville, it's like I can come in Friday at 10, and then I have a person that's like, well, I was in Maplewood, and I can come at 9 o'clock. It's like you can't take both those clients, so you're gonna lose someone.
Yeah.
And like, which one do you choose, and how do you know? So I just got sick of doing that. Dove in there, and then just through some business stuff. It wasn't the mentality I was trying to work with. It was kind of a one-sided relationship, so I moved into a private training studio in St. Paul right when I started my master's program. It's about a mile from our apartment, and that was a lot of it because it's close, right? So now I'm traveling to the U once a day to do classes and do all that stuff, and I interned a little bit when I was there. So, and then it just turned out to be really good. My clients love the private aspect. They love not being around a ton of people, because I train only like one-on-one private stuff, right? Or like 2 people. Sure. So like none of them, they like kind of having that private seclusion because it lets them, we can have conversations that you wouldn't have in a full gym. Well, some people would, but most people don't. You know, and you get to know your people a lot better, and you can kind of tailor it to them, right? So now they come in, they get a towel, they get a water bottle. You know, some of them get shakes as they leave. I have shakes I give them, and you just can set that tone, right? We change the music to what they like. You know, I've got a 19-year-old kid that comes in, likes to listen to rap music. I got a 68-year-old woman that loves Bruce Springsteen. So I can change, and we can put on whatever they want, and it's an experience, right? So my biggest thing is like, people always ask me like, how do I do it? Like, how do I become an independent contractor? Or how do I build my business? And it's like, well, take the lead. That's the first thing. That's scary as hell. It was. You know, I went from a solid paycheck at LA, you know, clearing not great money, but like good money for a person that's just literally rolling and training your clients, to cut it in half, and now you're on your own, and now you got to figure out how to get people. And that's shit they don't teach you in exercise science classes. Like, I have an exercise science degree, 2 of them, and there's nothing about business in either one of those. So you learn that quick. And what I did learn is the experiences of it. You know, everyone's always like, oh, that trainer is terrible. How are they so busy? But then you watch their client interaction with them, and that client loves that person.
Yeah.
Great communication.
So what it is like the biggest thing is creating an experience for these people to like enjoy what they're doing, because a lot of times they don't like exercise.
No, I think you nailed it on the head though. Experience.
Yeah.
Like that should be the best part of their fucking day.
Yeah, and that's the way that's the way I try to put it. Is I try to get in there and make sure that they come in. We hit the door, stuff at the door. I give them like a 5 to 6 minute warm up on something, whether it's some lightweight bodyweight lunges or box squats or whatever. Just get some things moving. Let them kind of look out the window because you can see outside and all that stuff, and then they can kind of decompress. And now it's like, okay, we're 5 minutes in, we're here now. I'm in the gym. Everything else is out there, and we're here. And for me, that's been a huge thing. Whereas a lot of social interactions happen when you go to a fully functional gym. And then my biggest thing too is the frustrating part is when you want to train people at 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. In any gym, it's busy. So talk about programming for a client that has a huge goal. Like, I've got a lady now that she came to me 3 years ago, wanted to lose 100 pounds, and like I was like, well, hopefully we can get some dumbbells tonight. You know, hopefully we can get a bench tonight. So now I have no issue with that.
So with that, then, sorry to cut you off. We'll start with that. What type of training do you do? Is it performance training for different meets? Is it for you said weight loss? What type of training do you
So I do everything, man, and that's such a loaded term. And anyone that does business tells you to specify it, and I do have like people I like to work with.
Okay.
But I mean, I've worked with 7-year-old kids. I've worked with an 81-year-old guy with bone cancer. You know, my biggest thing is when I get a client, we have an interview process. We talk a little bit, and it's like I make sure that they're there for the right reasons. Like, the lady comes to me and she's like, in 3 months I want to lose 60 pounds. Okay, like, that's a lot, A. And B, like, do you understand, like, after the first, like, 5 to 10, it gets really hard. And it's going to be a process. And I said, 3 months isn't a process enough. She's like, well, that trainer down the road told me he could do it. And I said, well, take your ass to him then. Because I'm not going to sit here and lie to people to make money. And I think that's what's helped my business be where it's at right now.
That's a huge, I'm not trying to cut in, but
No, you're good.
that's how we do our onboarding process now.
Yeah.
Is, they come in, I talk to them, and we call it an interview actually.
Yeah.
And the same exact thing. We're like, and they, I'm sure you've dealt with this. So they come in, they want you to sell them. It's like, no, you fucking sell me.
Yeah.
Like, why are you here? What do you
Yeah,
want to
and
get out?
I was joking. Of the sales thing, is like I'm the least salesy salesman you'll ever meet. Like, we come in and like we'll work out, and people are like, okay, and like, so what's the deal? And I said, it's X amount of dollars per session. I require monthly prepayment. You have a 24-hour cancellation. They kind of looked at me. I was like, that's my hard sell. We just worked out. If you don't like what we did, then I'm not the person for you, because I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. We're not going to. I don't have a new workout for you every time you walk in the door. I mean, there's only a certain amount of things you can do to get an adaptation, and you have to do some things over again, especially with the general population that like, you know, I might have to start with someone with a box squat or even just like a very broken down box squat to try to get them to teach them how to squat. You know, I've been working with a lady for 6 months and she doesn't touch the barbell because there's so many things that you need to kind of take into account. And if they can't stabilize and they can't body weight squat correctly, you know, load it. But I mean, and people do, and that's fine. That's their that's their business model. But my business model, like people come to me to get healthy. Yeah. They don't come to me to get hurt. No. And that's the biggest thing where I think, you know, I don't take just anyone. For the most part, I've only turned down like 1 or 2 people, and it's legitimately because like we just didn't match, you know. Yeah. But like I'm very upfront with people where it's like, you know, you're gonna get this, and we're gonna work hard, and you're gonna lift weights. And if you don't like lifting weights and you don't like working hard, like it's probably not the place for you.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure you get it all the time. Well, like I don't want to get bulky. Well, what are you doing now?
Well,
has it worked?
Yeah. So and that's the thing is like you Google me, you don't find me working with like a 65-year-old woman. You find me, you know, powerlifting. You find me squatting big weights, deadlifting weights, whatever it may be. So a lot of people, that's been a roadblock for me as people think that, oh, well, all you know how to do is bench, squat, and deadlift. And it's like, well, no, that's what I like to do. But like a lot of my clients don't even deadlift or they don't bench. You know, we'll use dumbbells or we'll use hex bar or we'll use, you know, like a sumo squat technique with dumbbells and stuff. Like, you know, a lot of my weight loss clients we just get you moving. We use a lot of cross body stuff. We'll do a leg exercise, do an upper body exercise, do a plyo exercise. And plyo not so much as even jumping on a box, like simple stuff like body weight jumps. You know, just stuff to get the heart rate elevated. And I think people like to overcomplicate this stuff and pretend that they learned, oh, you know, this new secret training method that nobody knows about. And it's like, man, it's been done. It's a recycled version of something, and that's fine. Like, but I think you need to. I think as trainers, we like to like sell ourselves in a sense to where we know more than everybody else. Whereas a lot of times, man, a lot of people just need accountability. You know, I've got a bodybuilding client that knows not as much as me as far as energy systems and stuff, but like I do compare exercises and he can pick up stuff he wants to do. But he likes coming in because he gets a good workout. He just tells someone that I tell him to start lifting weights. You know, he doesn't sit there and chatter with people. So he likes that aspect of it. And I think that's part of it too, is you got to be able to cater to your client in that sense, not to where, you know, like you cater to them so much to where you go outside of your realm, but give them what they need. And if that means 4 exercises, that's 4 exercises. If that's 30 exercises, that's 30 exercises, whatever they can handle, right? So I think that's something that people miss is they're trying so hard to be different when if you just focus on being good.
Well, I think it's great by you too to have the awareness to know that you're going to take on who fits in with you versus trying to take everybody and then have a conflict down the road.
Right.
You set yourself up for success knowing they have the same mindset you do.
Yeah.
And then in turn with that, what is your retention rate with these clients? Are they there with you for a long time? Do they kind of come in for a little bit and leave because they hit their goals so quick? Or how do you do that?
And so I've got a client I've been literally training since day one. Like she's still with me, and I think she just likes the accountability aspect of it. She enjoys our interaction. Like, you know, going back to she likes who I am as a person. She just likes having somewhere to be having someone that gives her exercises that she doesn't have to think about. Because a lot of the people I work with are they run companies or, you know, they're high up and they think all day. So for an hour they get to come in and not think. And so my retention rate, I mean, I've got a lady that's been with me for 5 or 6 years. Most people stay for at least a year. The shortest that I honestly have had is probably in like a month, and that was an online client that I think he just kind of expected more than what it was, and you know, and it just didn't work out. So I told him, I said, well, there might be a better fit. You might maybe find somebody that you can work with in person. You know, I don't think we're the right fit, but usually my in-person people are like 6 months minimum.
Okay. And I think that's a great thing about the place that you have here, Tyler, is exactly what you just said, Doug, is a lot of people have, let's face it, a lot of smaller private gyms or CrossFit gyms these days are not cheap. So for people that have great jobs and they're working all day long, to come to a place like this where they have someone actually coaching them through, where they don't have to think, they continue to work to get better on the technique, their form, and everything else, it's an attribute to what you guys do, so it's pretty in-depth.
Well, I think that comes with the job, and that's why you can set a higher value to what you do. You know, if I say it every day, I want the 200 perfect members, not 250 members, 50 of them pain in my ass. You know what I mean? You like, to be blunt, like those people can drain you. Yeah. And we've had to do things for me over the years to get rid of programs, to get rid of some people because I didn't like them. So, and now I love my members. So it's one of those things, I'm sure you've had some people in the past who you just have to cut ties or, like you said, it was just not a fit.
I mean, it's business, and that's what people need to realize too, is like, Cutting ties or firing a client, however you want to word it, I don't care. I just tell people it's not a right fit.
Yeah.
But if you're trading money for time, you're going to be unhappy. And for me, everyone always talks about do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, I said, well, own a business, do what you love and you're going to work every day of your life. But, I can work 60, 70 hours a week and I enjoy it. I'm in Mexico on vacation and I'm answering emails and doing that. I love it. I love helping people. I love my clients. It's easy for me to do that. And I think if you have clients that are paying you $150 an hour, but you can't stand talking to that person, is it worth it? And for me, it's not. Making money obviously is a goal. You got to feed your family, do all that stuff. But like, making money for me is, it needs to come from a source where I'd rather make a lot less and enjoy what I do than make a ton of money and hate every day.
And that goes both ways too, because your client's going to realize if you're not putting the effort, that they're not getting anything back from it. They're going to fire you, vice versa. So I think it goes hand in hand with that too.
Yeah, if you roll through the motions, people know that. Like,
exactly.
If you don't, I take the time and I write the programs down for every client before they come in the room. And like that's for me, it's my type A personality. I just like being done with it. But like if you roll in and the client's like, well, let's see what we can do today, or a trainer's like, let's see what we can do today. Hopefully we can do some cool stuff. And it's like, oh, why don't we try this, this, and this, and see what happens? It's like, well, what's that person's goal? Are you training an energy system that's going to pertain to that goal? Are you training a movement that's going to pertain to that goal? And are you actually caring about what they want to do? Like, are you hearing what they're saying? Like, hey, I want to lose weight. So why are you doing one rep max back squats? Like, that ain't gonna help. So I guess the biggest thing that I tell people is, back to what I said is like the service of this industry is everything. And if people like you, they're gonna buy from you. And you're gonna make more money. But if you provide a good service and people like you, you're gonna make a lot of money. And that's the thing where I think people need to realize that before you worry about this new fancy thing that's coming out that we're going to try because Muscle and Fitness did it. And I think people get lost in that stuff with what celebrities are doing, what people are doing, and all that.
And what are you going to get your master's for now at the U?
So I have my master's now. I finished
you
in
have?
July.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Congrats.
Sport and exercise science. Same one Nick has, I think. You have the MED from the U?
No, I don't. I went to Dakota Wesleyan. Mine is a master's.
You got a master's at Dakota Wesleyan?
Yeah, it's
don't
a
have a
master's of education administration policy, so a little bit different.
How do you like the program?
It was good, honestly. So,
I thought about
full
going back
disclosure,
a few years ago.
I signed up for the MED at the U because there's no GRE requirement. I don't do standardized tests very well.
That's why I looked at it a few years ago. I was going to go back.
No, man, it's good. So there's a lot of really good professors, and you got to pick the right classes, and you got to sign up, and you got to prep for that because there's very few classes because it's only a 30 credit master's. So it's not.
Morelli got his.
And yeah, I loved it.
It's a lot of hands-on. Right. Which because a teammate of ours went. Coach here, and he loved it because it wasn't about the test. It was more about what's applicable. It's a lot more hands-on. He said, which I like.
And there's because like some of them, like if you end up taking all math, like I had to take one undergraduate course, and it was literally like the professor was phenomenal. Zach Rourke, he's a local guy. He runs a hockey facility over in Plymouth, and they do pretty. They just do cool stuff, and he's done some pretty neat things, and like. But one of the things was like his testing is like I test you guys on this because it's like a requirement. And one of it was like know all of your aerobic energy systems and where they happen. And I thought he was joking, right? So I thought, like multiple choice, something like that. No. And the question was all 22 of them, no word bank, and you got to tell what it was and what happens. And I like looked up at him and I just started shaking my head. So the good news is a lot of it happens in the mitochondria. So I got like 10 points, but because I just put mitochondria down for where it happens and everything, and I just got mad and finished the test. But other than that, like the classes themselves, like we have the U is a really good resource for a lot of things. And I don't think people realize like how much actually goes on there. Like there's a full physiology lab where they do like underwater weighing, blood testing, and all that stuff underneath, and no one really knows about it because it's not advertised.
Yeah.
But you learn that stuff when you go through the program. Like we did some labs and stuff through there.
And what's one that Cal Dietz does? I know he's talked about another podcast I was listening to where he measures the output of his clients, kind of nutrition he gives to them immediately after the workouts to see how. Do you know what that was called by chance? Or
The test he did, yeah, he actually had blood work done. He sent it out to some. I don't know what it was called. It wasn't. I don't think it was at the U. I could be very wrong with there. So if I'm wrong, then I'm sorry for false information. But it's kind of hard to nail down what Cal does because there's so much. Like if you're a science nerd and you love like that whole aspect of physiology and all that stuff, like that is a good person to get to know because he's doing some stuff over there that's not many places are doing, especially in like a performance setting.
And is he taking through youth training, the stuff that he does that he specializes in with his training? What's the name of the
Triphasic training?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I interned with Cal for a summer and then interned with the U, and you see it, but like, you program it, you don't program it, but you run the program with the athletes, and you see it happen, and you understand it. And like, if you ask, he'll tell. But it's one of those things where he's given out so much information in the last 20-something years that like he doesn't just tell people stuff because, I mean, if you care, you'll ask. And so he'll sit down with anyone and talk. But it's crazy. So it's focused on the 3 phases of muscle contraction, and basically it's based around like tricking the force velocity curve. So it's a very heavily loaded fast movement to a loaded jump to a deloaded jump to a jump for distance or height.
Okay.
So basically you're training something, the stimulus is very heavy and then sort of heavy and then deloading it. So then your reaction time is quicker, and then you have to jump over the hurdles, so you're absorbing force, and then you're jumping and doing an actual movement that you would do maybe on a court or ice or wherever. You don't jump on ice, I guess, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's an athletic movement that you would actually perform.
So basically, the final phase you'd be doing like hurdle jumps and maybe different distances up to a larger box.
Yep, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's different all the time, right? So it's different depending on the phase, depending on if it's isometric or eccentric. I mean, he's got a super max where he's got people working up to like 125% of their max on a single leg squat, with a safety bar. So it's pretty cool. Like if you can get in, it's hard to explain unless you get there and experience it. And that's the only thing because I can't talk triphasic with that many people other than like the bare.
Well, I think it goes down to what so many people try to learn off. Don't get me wrong, it's good to educate no matter what, but they look at a video online and they think they know something.
Yeah.
But until you're in it, you don't know.
Well, that's exactly
a lot of times,
people talk about his split squats and like, oh, that's got no. There's no way anyone will ever need to do that as an athlete. Like, why does an athlete need to split squat 700
If you're a
pounds?
hockey player and you're kind of really.
And everyone always says that. Well, why do you need to be able to split squat on one leg 700 pounds? And I was like, so you have a 200-pound hockey player that just jumped in, or a 200-pound football player that just jumped in the air. Well, when you land, it's like 3.5 times your body weight. So do the math there.
Well, not only that.
So like, if you can absorb force, you can release force, and that's
Well, if someone said that to me, I would argue, whenever in nature or in sport are we below parallel in a squat, or are we below parallel?
Yeah, see, and that's the next thing he gets rid of.
So now you throw that out there, and people are like, "Oh
he
shit!"
preaches a sport squat, which is, if you look at it from the side, it's the angle of the knee is 90 degrees, but he preaches traction forward with the knee, and then the hip crease goes as low as you can in good position, and it's more of a dynamic movement. And people have like blown that apart on the interwebs that don't, and it's like, well, if they're, what are they going to do if they get below parallel? And it's like, well, if your offensive line's hips below parallel, he's probably not very good, and he's probably not going to win.
Right?
It doesn't matter if you can squat 700 pounds. If you're in that position on the field, it's not a good deal for you.
Or he's got great leverage.
Yeah, I mean, one of the two, I guess, but
I can't quote the article, but there's a study done where it showed that there's a lot more glute and quad activation with a heavier load, not going below parallel. I have it. Me and
Well, like
Marley were talking
bodybuilders
about
time and attention. He's just.
Well, it's not that, but it was like, heavier load in a box squat is better for glute activation than a full depth squat at a lower load.
yeah.
So,
And I think people, and that's the thing is like they just assume without asking.
yeah.
And that's the biggest problem we have in this industry in general. It's like, even when I started this thing, it's like, I want to be a powerlifting strength coach so bad. Like I just wanted it. Yeah. So everyone that was working with a different powerlifting coach that they were doing something that was weird, I was like, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? I would never do that. But then you talk to that coach and he's like, well, this is the why. That makes sense.
Exactly. If you know the why, that's it.
And that's it. Like,
That's
that's the thing is like you could do. I mean, you could convince if you have a good reason to do. I can't. A one-legged snatch on a Bosu ball, but you can tell me like, hey, it does this, and
Join the
this.
circus.
And I was
okay.
like, oh, okay. If you can defend your reason, like, I'm not gonna question it because what people forget is like there's 1,000 ways to do this, 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and I think people get caught up and you can only do it one way, and that's why every human is different.
Skinny cat.
The more you learn, the more you realize you're just scratching the surface of this shit.
Right.
So,
The more you
I
learn,
don't
the
think
more you
we've
realize
tapped
you
into
don't
our
know.
human potential at all.
Well, the interesting.
We're not even
we don't
fucking
know what
close.
ideal is.
We don't know
It's
it.
like,
It's going to be another.
still out there.
Yeah.
It probably always will be.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting about the triphasic thing with Cal. When I hear him talk about it, it's just always just makes me think if he was able to create it from working with those specific athletes in hockey and track, because football always has their own lifting coach, right?
Yep.
And so, or if it was just he had it already in place and he found the right athletes to then implement it. Which either way, it's kind of crazy how it came along. It'd be interesting to hear that story. To be honest.
And I know a little bit of it, and I tell it because it makes me laugh. Because everyone and their dog has a
was a
ebook out
dream?
right now. Pretty much, right? He was walking through the forest, and no, that's RPR. We'll talk about that a little bit too. But,
A day just like today.
but no, like everyone's like, how did it come about? Like, when did you decide? Like, when did you write this book? Like, you've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years? He's like, no, I've been doing this for like 20 years. And they're like, what? He's like, it took me 18 years, I think, to write the book, 2 years to produce it. He's like, I was in the strength and conditioning world for 20 years before I wrote a book. And people are like, what? Well, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, you know, if you look on Instagram or YouTube, everyone's got some book on how to do this or how to do that. But, like, they've never tested it. I mean, getting yourself to a 405 bench or a 700-pound squat or whatever it is cool. But when you can do it to a lot of people, that's where it becomes something. So repeatedly, you know, recruiting helps with you. Obviously, you know, the hockey background, all that stuff. But he gets a ton of really good athletes, and he had to find a way to get these athletes to get better. So when you have an athlete that, you know, it's an Olympic caliber athlete, they need extreme adaptations. Like, they're not a person that's going to get a lot better just back squatting, because it's so simple and specific that their nervous system and their muscle spindles and all that stuff is like, well, this is easy. So they adapt very quickly. Yeah. And so you needed to create something that gave them a response to where they could get better, because that's what sports is, right? I mean, it's how fast you can be at any given time. And what he was realizing is when he started implementing it first with the track and field team, that it was like guys were literally getting faster, like by the week. Like, they were setting PRs all the time, and then they figured out how to undulate it, how to cycle it, so that way it was peaking at certain times, right? Because it's cool if you win a local meet or you win a meet that doesn't mean anything, but if you can win Big Tens or you can win a national, like, that's where it's at, right? Like, you got to qualify, and as long as you can qualify, then he deloads everyone and smashes them with an eccentric phase mid-season. Now, he doesn't work track and field anymore, but that's what he used to do. So it's just kind of cool because he has it down to such a I mean, science obviously, but such a, like, it's more like music or dance. It's more like an art, because, like, everything happens for this reason. Like, if you started playing a song in the middle of a song, you know, most of your band wouldn't be able to do that because no one knows where to start. Whereas with triphasic, it's so simple that everyone thinks it's so difficult.
So it's a set system and principles that he knows how he can change at any time.
Anytime. Yeah. And like, it's so simple and so easy to implement. And, you know, people get caught up in exercise selection with it, but the biggest thing is figuring out, like, what's going to work for your facility, what's going to work for your people. Because you can do 1,000 different ways, right?
He respected more than it took the 20 plus years.
Well, it means it's legit, right? It produces results.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the guy's got like 36 rings. He's got 2 ring cases he carries.
Like
30
out of rings or watches.
Yeah, and I mean, and he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that for bragging rights. He doesn't do that because if you ever meet him, he's like the most humble dude you ever meet. Like, he's very quiet, very down to earth. You know, but he brings that out because it's like, he's like, because I say so many things that people don't agree with because it's against the norm, that I have to be like, no, like, here's my rings. You know, like, you want to check tape? Like, I can win. And, and that's the biggest thing. And, like, producing results, like, everyone's got this cool method, but, like, if you don't win, I mean, is your method really that good?
Well, usually the ones who have the abnormal way of thinking are usually the ones who are the best. Let's just, I mean, really.
Yeah.
That's the way it always goes.
I mean, that's just what it, and that's, like, if you talk, I think a guy is like,
if you're just like the next coach, then you're just another fucking coach.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, is being how to separate yourself. I think people try to separate themselves in the incorrect ways, and they try to do it at, you know, a young age where they're first getting started in this, where it's like, I don't even think you know what your principles and your beliefs are until you, like, coach people for at least 4 or 5 years. Because mine have changed. Mine are different now than they were 4 years ago.
Mine are different than last year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, every time I write a training cycle for a powerlifter, it's like, oh man, that's gonna be fun. Like, this could be pretty cool. Like, and like, then you just see the progress. And what that's taught me as well is, I mean, you can do anything as long as it's consistent. People are gonna get better.
So for you then, sorry, for you, what do you do lifting wise? What do you at this time in life? I mean,
So I was a power lifter up until, I mean, I guess I competed in July at a charity event, and I did that because it's a charity event for Hope Kids, Relentless Minnesota.
Oh, the deadlift one?
Yep. I did a full power, but I only told people about the deadlift because I was so weak. But
but you did compete years past then? Or?
Yeah, I competed for about 5 years, and then when I signed up for my master's program, it just, you know, one of those things, like, a lot of stuff happened at one time. Like, I was at a point in my training career where it's like, I don't know if I want to personal train anymore. I kind of want to get into collegiate because I kind of want to stress myself and, like, push how good I can be at this. And it was a time in business where that's part of the reason I left the facility I was at, because it wasn't because I was sick of personal training that I was sick of going to work every day. It was because of the environment I was in. So when I changed that position, like, it completely changed my mind with everything. But
Can you elaborate on? I liked what you said earlier because I think it definitely resonated with me.
Yeah.
I know it is with him. But like you said, like, you know, you hated the corporate way of thinking. Yep. You know, you're in this for different reasons. And strength conditioning coaches are, I think, in that same boat. But, like, I know there's this weird and huge divide between, not everyone, but, you know, more of that private sector, like, you know, global Okay, and we're back. So, no, what I was asking about earlier was, you talked about, really trying to get away from how, corporate gyms are, doing things for the right reasons, and kind of, more of like the why and a little deeper of why you didn't want to work for someone like LA Fitness or whatever.
Kind of like that individual over institution type
Yeah,
mindset.
yeah.
So the biggest thing I can say there is those places are sales driven, which they keep the lights on. That's fine. So, but what would happen is, I'd see hard sales done. Like a lady come in and they'd use that electric BMI tester and they'd use all that and like scare tactics is what I call them to get people to sign up like, oh my God, you're 54% body fat, you're gonna fucking die. And like that shit would happen and people would sign up for like ridiculous training packages towards like, no, if you give me a person once a week, like they're gonna get a program, they're gonna get stuff to do on their own. So I guess the biggest reason that like I knew I would not be there very long, I guess I made it a while, but like I wanted to provide a service that people talk about. Like an experience to where when people come to the gym, they come to the gym like, yeah, we're losing weight, we're working out, but I like going there. Like it's fun. Like he trains me well. We listen to music that I like to listen to. He's always got a towel for me. He's got, I have folders that I write notes down about all my clients in. So now that secret's out, now I'm gonna look like an idiot. But, just so I know stuff, right? So it's hard to get that connection in an LA Fitness setting because a lot of times I only got clients for half an hour there. And a lot of times, like they would train with other trainers because they bought a package and then buy a trainer.
Yeah.
Right. So then, like sometimes I'd get a program. It's like I'd look at it, and they're doing dumbbell bench with some sort of whatever. They're doing like nothing's paired correctly, in my opinion, and nothing's paired to where it made sense. So I was like, well, you worked everything yesterday, so what should we do today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, and that's usually like you can do full body stuff and make it make sense, but like the rep schemes were off. Like one thing was like 15 reps, the next one was 5s, the next one was 10s, whatever. So you're pulling the energy systems and the body itself in 18 different directions. So then I get a client. So the reason for that is like when people come to me, like they don't come for like a generic product. They come for a specific product, and I provide that product. I feel I provide an experience for them to come into a gym to where LA Fitness, you can go in there and you go into a freeway area at LA Fitness at 5 p.m. and it's busy, but it's full of idiots and it's full of people that don't care that you're there. Guys that are trying to dumbbell press 120s and they should be maybe pressing the 60s and they're throwing them off to the side. And my client almost got her foot smashed one time, and it's not a place where I feel you can run a professional business in a sense to where as a trainer you can be respected because we already wear sweatpants to work every day and t-shirts, and half the time I'm covered in chalk. So I mean, you got to keep it as professional as you can, and I couldn't do it there because I didn't feel like that setting was set up for that. And then the turnover, right? So a person, I got a lady that came in, she's like, I worked with 3 trainers before you. And I was like, and that's one of my clients been with me for 6 years. And every time that when she came in, like all 3 of those trainers walked up and were like, hey, just so you know, she'll make like 3 sessions and she'll be done. Don't worry. She's not a long-term client. Fast forward 6 years later, that lady's lost like 78 pounds and like 110 inches and stuff like that. So what I tell people is I provided a process and a service that people enjoyed, they liked, and they felt like I gave a shit. And that's the biggest thing is like, it's hard to care about people that, yeah, you're making money from them and all that stuff, but it's hard to care about that when they're just kind of another number to most everybody else. For me, like, my clients are my clients, and I'm super protective over that. Like, even my powerlifting guys, like, if someone starts saying something about their bench press in the gym, it's like, hey, maybe you should try this, this, and this, and it's like, well, like, maybe you should step back because you don't know why they're doing this, this, and this. Like, and my people are my people, and that's, like, I'm pretty protective of that. Not where I'm nervous about losing clients, but like I've taken a lot of time to build the people to where they're at and how I want them, and I want them that way. So I guess that's the biggest thing why corporate for me would never work. It felt like I was punching a time clock. It was like I walked in, I pull up in my car, I'd sit out there for like 5 minutes. Like, here we go, another day. Okay, at least I get to work with so and so, so and so, so and so, and that's it. But I hated walking in that gym every day, not because of my clients, not because I was stressed or anything like that. It just didn't feel right. It wasn't me. I'm not a corporate gym, I'm not a corporate anything. Pretty much like I'm a special commodity, I guess you could call it.
No, I think that's something I think anyone who opens up a private gym or, a small niche gym, like you have to find your own culture, and you can't do that in that kind of setting. No. And not only that, like, I mean, to me, like, I was in that setting for a while, and I felt like right away I was doing everything half-assed because that's the way they wanted it done. Right. Just a quick return of the money, right? Rather than going into the process and, the whys and like, okay, you want to lose this weight? Okay, to do it right, we need to take this much time. Yeah. And you may not even go there. You know how long it takes? As long as it fucking takes.
Yeah, and that's people, oh, if I work out twice a week with you, when can I lose 50 pounds by? And
I don't know.
Hopefully in like a year.
Yeah.
Hopefully. That's
Right?
the goal, right? But my biggest thing was like, what I relate that to is this is how it was. I had a great personal training director who's still a very good friend of mine at LA Fitness. He was outstanding.
There are good people at those places.
And
There
like,
are.
the thing is that he was there for 5 or 6 years, and that company took advantage of him like crazy. He's finally not there anymore, thank God. I think he left around the same time I did. But he was great. But we had some sales staff under him that they were just trying to make money. So like I took a lady to a workout just to kind of see where she was at. So it was pretty simple workout, 6 exercises, 30 minutes, nothing crazy. But she went up to the training desk. She's like, it wasn't a very hard workout. Like I don't feel like I got worked. You know what I mean? So the training director, or the sales staff went to me. She's like, this person just had a workout. They said it wasn't very good. Maybe you should like crank it up a little bit. And I was like, well, what wasn't good about it? And they're like, well, they weren't tired. I was like, oh, okay. I said, they'll be here tomorrow. We'll talk to them tomorrow. And they hobbled in like, oh my God, I'm so sore. My legs hurt so bad. And I was like, right, because I don't need to run you in the floor to get a response. And that's what people forget is it's not about how much sweat you make, it's about how much quality work you do.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And like, so there I was told I couldn't train the way I wanted to train. They let us do whatever you want. You can write whatever programming you wanted. But they would say it has to be hard. Like they have to leave tired, otherwise you're not getting their money's worth.
I think that's a problem overall in all of fitness, strength sports, everything. Like people come into the gym and think, I need to die every day.
Yep.
No, it's a fucking process.
Right. And
You
that's
have
the
to
thing
train
is, like,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
Because I was joking. I built an 800-pound squat where I squatted, and then I'd maybe do some reverse hypers and some glute ham raises, and then I would train some back the next day. You know what I mean? Like that was all I would do. I'd do 5 or 6 exercises to build my squat, and I built a pretty good squat that way. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't need to be some sciencey anything. It just takes hard work, and that's the atmosphere I wanted to create with when I started my business. It wasn't about, we're fitness people. We're gonna get you to lean and do whatever. It was like you're gonna come in, you're gonna work, and like my logo says, do what works, not what's trending. Yep. And I stuck to that pretty much since I opened. Like that's been something, and it's like, that was it was right around when CrossFit got super popular, and it got a bad rap because some places didn't train people correctly, and then you go to a place like this where you walk in, and it's great because people love it. You're teaching technique correctly. You onboard. That's the biggest thing is when people don't onboard.
Yeah.
So you throw 65-year-old Betty into a snatch class and she's never picked a barbell up.
No.
Well, why can't you do this? I can do this. I picked one up and I was great at it. And places don't do that, and it's scary. And I think those places are weeding out because they're closing.
No, they
because
definitely are.
they're
We've had
fucking killing people. But,
yeah, I think even just like all of a sudden now you have other clubs or gyms trying to do what's trendy and popular, and they have people who've never done it before.
right.
Yeah, it's great to go get certified, and I don't even like someone who just takes their USAW cert. Okay, you did it for a weekend.
Right.
It takes many years to refine how to coach a snatch.
And that's exactly it. And I got a couple clients that came to me from a local facility that obviously unnamed, it's fine. But they're like, yeah, they were teaching me how to snatch, and I blew a rotator cuff, and I had to get surgery, and I've been out for 8 months. And I was like, well, what was your background? Well, I never lifted before. And I was like, and how did you snatch it? And they're like, yeah. Did they do anything for like scapular stability or any back stability? Did you learn how to pull correctly? Anything? Nope. Just tossed me into it. And I was like, oh, perfect. Good. That's exactly, and I think it's giving trainers in general a bad rap. And I had some really good trainers when I was with the LA Fitness Midway. We did some great things. One of them still with LA Fitness as a company. He's phenomenal. Best drug-free bodybuilding coach I probably ever met. That dude can do things with diet that is scary. I've seen him he's trained a ton of natural pros, stuff like that. But that's the style of training. So that facility fits him because he needs the machines, he needs that stuff for that.
For sure,
addition.
yeah.
But in general, you walk in there and it could be a 19-year-old kid that passed his cert yesterday. And not that I'm old, but I'm 13, so I've been at this for about 16 years lifting weights. And I don't think you need to be at this for 20 or 30 years to be good at it, but you should have some experience. You should have grown up in the gym. You should have lifted some weights. And just because you found fitness at 19 and oh, this is kind of fun. I'm gonna do this for a living now.
Yeah.
And that's I think what a lot of times we run into. And I think I know some really good 24-year-old powerlifting coaches that are training monsters. And a local guy uses a bodybuilding coach that's younger than he is. He's 29, he's my age, and he was on the Olympia stage last year. So you don't have to be like 30 years of experience for this, and I think people get caught up in that. You go one of two ways. Like you got these young coaches trying to prove themselves, and you got these old coaches that are saying the young coaches are idiots.
Yeah.
And in general, I think if everyone just supported each other and kind of helped these kids out, like you see a 26-year-old coach post something stupid on Instagram, rather than calling him out on Instagram or saying he's an idiot, shoot a guy a message or tell him, hey, let's take you out to coffee, let's take you out to lunch, let's talk about what you're doing and why I think it's wrong, and maybe help, because a lot of these kids are just looking for guidance, but no one wants to give it to them because
It's all it's big dick show. Everyone's
yeah, and
trying
that's
to be
all
the
it is.
best.
It's like, well, if I teach him my ways, like he'll take clients from me, and that's a big thing. And it's like, you know what, like
No secrets.
no, I tell people all the time, like if someone drives up to see me and they're 35 minutes from my training studio, do you think that that's going to be an easy drive for them every day when they're tired? No. So I would say, oh, you live in Burnsville? Cool. I have a great trainer down there or a great gym if you want to try that. Well, no, I want to try with you first. Okay. So we try it, and I got a guy that drives from Farmington every week, and I'm in St. Paul. That's a 45-minute drive.
And that's where you know people are committed. I have
Yeah.
a couple who I've been training for years. They open up their own gym and they still come down once a week.
Yeah.
And I was just mentoring. We were just talking about it earlier. And I think that's where people are scared to tell why they do the things they do. But like, look at the best coaches out there. They give out so much free content.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
Greg Everett.
really.
Yeah.
Like I just think of Greg Everett right away. He puts everything out
Everything.
there.
And I tell people all the time, like I have clients like, hey, would you sit down, like just kind of talk about your programming? Sure, I'll show you exactly how I do it. Because it changes for everyone. And I think people there's no secrets in this. You can find anything you want anywhere. But I think people are so worried about losing clients and not, I'm not the trainer for everyone, and I'm the first one to admit that. I had 9 guys do a powerlifting meet 2 years ago, and my shirt on the back, it's kind of a running joke, was PR is greater than 9 for 9. So on the back is PR, the greater than sign 9 for 9. It got fucking lit up, dude. Lit up. Holy fuck. Great advertising though. Thank you everyone.
They know who
it
you are
was
now.
so, I got so many messages off of a t-shirt, and people were like, well, that's not everyone's goals. Not everyone has your goals. And I finally just said on there, I said, I'm not the trainer for everyone.
Yeah.
And I get that. But I train lifters, and I don't want to be the best in the world, that's fine. But we're going to put a weight on the barbell that you've never lifted before, because that's what we're there for.
Yeah.
You're not there to do good.
Yeah.
You're there to do great for you, and you're there to better yourself. So it's cool if you go 9 for 9. I don't give a shit. If that's your coaching style, by all means. But if we hit a PR on the second attempt, like we're going to put some weight on the bar. And if you miss your third attempt and you still hit meet PRs, which weird, for 4 years I've had guys steadily increasing almost every meet. We run a meet maybe 2 a year. They run a 6-month program and they're getting better all the time. I expect a lot out of my clients because I give a lot to my clients. Like to where when I write a program, it's not like click, 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 here you go. It's I sit down, I assess your body type, I assess what we're gonna do, and I assess what you need. So we train weaknesses. Where a lot of my, I had a kid that just came off an eating disorder 2 years ago that needed volume. He just had to get stronger and get bigger and build some muscle and strengthen his tendons and ligaments.
Yeah.
And now he's getting close to a 600-pound deadlift at like 220. That's all right, I guess.
Yeah.
That's probably an okay deadlift.
Well, that's
For
like
a dude that just does it for fun.
Yeah.
A couple of things. Don't you want your PRs to come in the
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
test. Your training's your homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Competitions are your test.
Yeah,
Some
and that's
people
my
are
thing, it's
scared
like-
to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I think the day and age with the social media aspect, people are like, if I post big lifts on social media, then I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
I'll get that fucking sponsorship, and I'm gonna be somebody. Well, I used to post like 750-pound squats on Instagram, and I get like 6 likes if I didn't tag everything in there.
There's that one meme of like dude squats 700
Yeah.
and there's like a couple helicopters with them
Right.
dropping legs. Girl squats 135 and it's just like.
Oh,
fall,
no.
fall,
But that's
fall,
exactly it. I would
comment,
post my 700-pound squat video and it'd get barely any attention. And I'd post a client, like a female client's video for squatting, whatever, which is a great squat, 225, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's a great squat, but like it would blow up because everyone's like they want to support the underdog, right?
Yeah.
To where like, but people can't just acknowledge that you're better than them sometimes, and that's an ego thing.
I think
And
I think the posting, like posting your own list, posting big lists. I went down the same road. I thought that I was like, I'm gonna post some big shit. I'm gonna get strong as fuck. I'm gonna get some sponsorships. I'm gonna get paid to lift. And after a while, you start to learn that you get credibility out of that. But what people really care about is like how strong can you make them. And so I think that's what some of the big dogs have down. Is that they're showing other people, they're giving out that free content, showing other people how strong they can help them
Yeah,
be.
well, and then you look at the marketing aspect of it too, right? So like powerlifting is a funny sport. I love it. I'm a state chair for the USPA. I love the sport. I think it's great. I don't compete in it much anymore because it's a toxic environment. Everyone downplays like these. They call them pop culture powerlifters, and I'm sorry I wasn't born in the 70s and got to squat with shitty barbells and out of squat racks built with like rims on them and stuff like that or whatever. But
I think we have a couple of those over there.
We have an
there you go.
old power rack from the 60s.
But that's what's funny is like, so these people are talking about, these pop culture powerlifters, it's trendy now, blah, blah, blah. And that shit makes me mad, dude. Like, so your sport's growing.
Yeah, you're pissed about it.
You're selling products that are making you money to people like me that just started powerlifting 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was, and you're mad about it. So you're making a ton of money and you're pissed because these people wear socks with bacon on them, or they do this for fun. They don't eat, sleep, and breathe it. They have a life outside of the gym, and I think that pisses people off.
That's the same thing in weightlifting.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And I think it's a sport where the cool thing with powerlifting is you could be slow as hell, awkward as hell, uncoordinated as hell, but you can get good at
strong.
But you can get strong because you can get good at it just from putting your head down and grinding in the gym.
Some of the biggest naps are strong as fuck.
And it attracts people from all walks of life and backgrounds and like all that shit where, it's a broken sport to where they're worried about, everyone talking about getting into the Olympics. Well, that'll never happen until ever, I don't think, honestly. Powerlifting makes you too goddamn boring. But it's you have raw, super raw. I think there's a federation where you can just wear a belt now. Multiply, whatever it is. I don't really care. I just like watching the weights being lifted. So like for me, it doesn't matter. But people, they'll talk about it all the time. I fucking hate geared lifting. Well, why? It's powerlifting. Like, it is what it is. Like, not for you, that's cool, but you can't hate it because it's, whatever. Like Donnie Thompson squatting 1,300 pounds or whatever he did. That's freaking amazing. Jeff Frank squatting 1,200. That's amazing. Like, whether you have a suit on or not, like, that's handling 1,200 pounds and coming up and down with it. Like, and people can't respect that. So as a culture, like, you have the raw guys that talk bad about the power, or the multiply guys, and vice versa. Drugs and no drugs, whatever you do, like, we can't just get down to who's strong and who's not.
Well, I think what it goes back to is like what you're talking about is whether it's lifters or personal trainers or coaches, putting your ego aside and continuing to learn. I mean, you go back for your masters.
Yeah.
All the education you guys continue to learn. You go into StrongFit, you get certified through that. Yeah. And even guys who were talking about posting their best lifts every week in the gym. Like some guys really get to post their failures too. And like those are the guys continually learn from because you see that whether it is geared guys or non-geared guys, it takes how many hours in the gym to even get to that point. That's what's impressive is the work that goes into it.
And I think if we just sat back as a culture and looked at it and be like, wow, that dude's pulling 700 pounds, got a little gas in him, he's running a little testosterone, whatever. But like, you can't just shoot some oil and get strong.
No, like Barry Bonds.
Yeah, that's what they, like, that's what it was like. Gas Barry Bonds up. Like that dude's gonna crank homers anyway.
Fuck yeah.
The biggest thing that people need to realize is like the baseball season's long, so like people do that stuff for safety. Like you can take low doses of things just to keep you healthy. But anyway, off that topic. But I just think.
Was there a better baseball season than '98 with Sosa? And
no. That's the only time I ever watched baseball in my life. Baseball's boring as shit.
And that's the thing that. And then what's funny is those dudes weren't even doing anything cool. Like they were doing like the lotion or whatever.
But the size of
they weren't even taking cool stuff. Like imagine if those dudes could have took some tests. Oh man, we had that long. We'd be playing on 600-yard fields right now.
Fucking on Tran and D-ball and like let's
the
go.
size of McGuire's forearms though, just insane.
But I think, and then that's what's funny is and no sports are clean. If we're gonna be on the drugs, like, are you gonna tell me that professional hockey and football, those guys?
Football, fuck no.
But like these dudes that are preaching about how they're awesomely drug free and how great they are, and as a drug free lifter, like, I used to portray that. Like I used to use that as advertisement, being like, fuck, I can squat almost 800 pounds and I don't do any drugs. But like no one cares because no one gives a shit about how much I can squat because my business wasn't built on powerlifters. Like those people are the most frugal people you ever meet. Like they don't want to spend any money on anything. They want all the help they can get. They don't want to pay for it, and that's fine. But like that's how I make my living. So I'm okay with giving away some information and stuff, but not for free. But
so what were your best, by the way? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, best on record, I was with Arnold in 2017. Did 765, 415, and 675. On second attempts. Squat bench dead. Okay. That was on second attempts. I timed out my opener because it was it's the first time I competed in a flight with a lot of geared lifters, and a couple guys scratched their openers because they whatever. So all of a sudden I was up, had one knee wrapped, and they said the bar was loaded. So I got my other knee wrapped, and then I got up and walked out 705, and they racked it because I didn't have time. So I took that opener again, and then smashed it, hit 765, very very easy. So it was a meet where 804 was there, and I'd squatted 804 that November, cut it high, and squatted it the July before that and cut it high. So I got 804 in a meet, which is frustrating because the Arnold, it was there. I know it was there, but the training cycle went well, depth was good. But it's just one of those lives where you don't get that third attempt.
Yeah, those big meets,
that
people
far
pull
for
that
me
shit.
before?
Not that far. Not that far, but I went out 2 days early.
Okay.
And then, and I planned for it. And that's the biggest thing is like, traveling for me is a lot different than being local. Waking up in your own bed, having your own breakfast, and competing is a big thing. I think, I can thank college football for that. Having to perform on the road. We drove 15 hours to Helena, Montana to play Carroll College, and you had to perform. And if you didn't show up for Carroll College, it was gonna be a bad day. And I think that's something that people forget too. Is like, you got a lot of local lifters that are like, oh, I'm 10th in the state, I'm 5th in the state. And they wear that like a badge of honor, and it's cool, man. Like, congratulations, but that doesn't make you better than Joe Schmo who's 20. I had a top 20 ranking coming out of 2015, top 20 in the country, drug-free, on a total that was second attempts. And most of my totals are built on second attempts because, again, PR is over 9 for 9. But I mean, it's just one of those things, man. I think it's an interesting sport. I love the sport. I love putting on meets in the sport because I think it's good to put meets on. I can control. The experience for the lifters is good. I think anyway.
I can attest for that.
Yeah, and I put together a thing that's for people. Like, I don't make any money. Like, I almost lost money in my last meet, only because I paid my spotters and loaders. I paid for judges to travel. I paid for all that stuff.
You probably did lose money if you think about your time.
Yeah, and that's for sure.
People forget that. They complain about meets or whatever.
But I do it because I enjoy it, and I do it because I like the federation, and I do it because people wanted it.
What federation is it? Sorry.
USPA,
Okay.
United States Powerlifting Association. So, which is different than USAPL. That's the popular one in Minnesota.
Okay.
But a lot of people compete only because it's the only one that, when you break down the classifications, raw is sleeves, and then there's no classic raw with wraps. So people are like, well, I don't want to compete in the UPA because as a raw lifter, I have to compete against that guy in knee wraps. And I'm in just knee sleeves, so I don't want to do that. And it's like, locally, it doesn't matter. Like, you're still in sleeves. Like, if you go on the powerlifting watch or whatever it is, like, you're still classified as a sleeve lifter. So it really doesn't matter. What it is you don't get your fake little medal that you showed up and paid for. And that's what a lot of people get upset about. So when I started running meets for USPA, a lot of people asked for it because the classic raw versus the raw. A lot of people hate the USAPL locally, but they all compete in it. And the USAPL is some monsters. Like, you want to learn how to do business, learn it from the USAPL. Those dudes, that cult-like following, that literally like they give nothing back to their athletes, and they make.
There goes their sponsorship.
That's why. If you're a USAPL affiliate, whatever. But I like powerlifting, and like, my thing is I don't like the USAPL. I started competing in the USAPL because, again, closed-minded person. I googled drug-free powerlifting and found, they're the drug-free strength sport. Well, I'm sorry, but like, how many dudes have been banned from that place? And it took how long to get caught. So what I quickly learned is powerlifting is not a drug-free sport; it's a drug-tested sport. And basically, I just started training for myself. Like, I don't care what Joe Schmo was doing over there. And when I started doing that, 650 was my max, and I was pushing 750, 740 like 6 months later.
That's something that I think me and you were talking about. That was like, sometimes when you take competition out of it, just train to train and get better.
It's got to be that.
It's better.
Like,
You take the stress off yourself. You just worry about the process.
I'm constantly dealing with that with my fucking lifters. They're such a head. Like, some of them are just such a head case, and they're just thinking about how they're gonna stack up to everybody else. Don't beat your last. Like, don't beat your last.
Well, and that's my thing is too. Is everyone's got these videos out how to get into your first powerlifting meet. I'll make a real simple one. Fucking sign up.
Sign up.
No, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, pick a day, pick a time. Oh, you want to compete in March? Cool. There's this federation, this federation, this federation. What weekends are you in town? Okay, cool. We'll do this federation.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing this.
And that's how I pick my meets for most of my people, because if you want to put a training cycle together because you're traveling in January for vacation for a week. Okay, we're going to compete in December then, because that'd be stupid to come back off of a week vacation and try to train for a meet.
Yeah.
So I pick it on that sense, and people are like, well, what happens if so-and-so shows up in the state? They're like number one in the state. Cool. You get to compete against them. You get to meet them. You get to meet a person that's the best in the state or the best in wherever. So I always took that, like, when I started traveling for meets down to Iowa, I was a little starstruck. I went down there in 2015. They competed in, that was when Eric Lillibridge just set the world record at 1050. I watched that happen. So you're down there, and it's like, I set my bag down in the warm-up room, getting ready. I was kind of stretching, moving around a little bit, putting on some of the, and then there was a bag next to me, and I didn't know whose it was, and Eric Lillibridge sits down. And at that time, I was a little starstruck. I was fanboy. I mean, I was like, oh.
What's up, guy?
I've seen you on the YouTube. And, yeah, right? And what I quickly learned is the Lillibridges are like some of the nicest humans you'll ever meet. And the most giving in the sport. Ernie Sr.'s been in this for like 50 years.
Well, that's what I was going to say before you go on. All the guys you're talking about, your lifters you're working with or you're working with, they see something again on social media they want to get in 3 months. It's going to take maybe 10 years to gain 100 pounds of muscle on any one of your lifts.
Yeah, for sure.
Shrink takes a lifetime. People want it now.
Yeah.
Well,
and
there's answers to that too.
It's just funny. It's like people are so concerned with what other people are doing in the sport. When you're so concerned with that, and you kind of lose sight on what your goals are.
So how did you respond to Lillibridge down there? When you saw him do that lift, how did you?
Man, it was cool. I shook his hand afterwards. The biggest thing that I just like watching lifts, man. I don't care if I win, lose, whatever. As long as I do better for myself. Like, I'm competitive as hell. Like, you put Monopoly down, I'm gonna try to win. But with strength sports, what you have to realize is like only a couple people get to be the best in the world, and you can train your ass off, and genetically you might not have it. And what I learned really quickly is like not everyone's gonna have it. So I just tried to get as strong as I could. And then, along the way, I got to compete on stages with people, the Lillibridges, Matt Wenning, Brandon Lilly, like stages like where guys you watch on YouTube, and it's like, holy shit, like, these are the real deal. And then you get to meet these people in real life, and it's like, they humanize, which is awesome, because you think that they're going to be like some big deal, but like, Brandon Lilly is one of the shyest people I ever meet. Like, to get him now he's a little better, but when he was super fucking strong, that dude barely talked to anyone. It wasn't because he was an asshole, it's because he didn't like talking to people. And he's
What do you
super
think
shy.
about it? He spends most of his time alone in the gym.
Yeah.
Earning what he wants
Yeah,
from him. It's gotta be weird. Yeah.
And it's cool because like what I learned from those guys is you don't have to be a giant asshole to be good at the sport, where a lot of people are. And you find that in certain sectors more than any. What I've learned is when you get in the untested side of powerlifting, whether you're drug free or utilizing whatever it is, the untested is fun because people just like to lift weights.
Yeah.
Whereas when I would go to like USAPL meets locally and stuff, it's the first thing it would be like, oh man, you guys see Ray Williams squat 1050 in sleeves or whatever it was, set a world record. Oh, he can't be drug free. There's no way he's gonna fail a drug test. That's the first thing that comes out of your mouth with that shit.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I saw that lift live at the Arnold. It was a year I competed there, and it was just like, that's the first thing people around me were saying, like, oh, there's no way he's clean. There's no way. And so, you kidding me? That dude just did something that like people can't do in multiply.
Yeah, there's a lot of drug powerlifters that don't lift.
Yeah, and whether
the majority of them.
Yeah, whether he's clean, whether I don't care. At the end of the day, that dude is doing some shit.
He's
right
got
now.
everything clicking too. He works for it. I mean,
Well,
he's got
the old stories on him. I heard he was on Reddit and somebody's like, "You did 700 for 20 reps. Like, why?" He's like, "I can't fit any more weight on my bar." It's just somebody fucking sent him a bar and some calibrated plates, and a couple a year later
awesome.
he's squatting a grand.
That's awesome. Ignorance is bliss when it comes to that stuff too, right? Like, he didn't know any better at that time, and that's what's cool is that's why he was where he was because he didn't know that 700 pounds was good. He just knew it was less than what he did the day before or whatever it was. And like when you start approaching it in that process, like the sport gets a lot of fun, and there's a lot of really good people in it. But there's a lot of people in it that are super toxic and want to get it back to the way it was, and powerlifting, make it scary again, and do all this and do all that. And it's like, cool, man. Like, I watch videos of dudes wrapping their knees with ace bandages with fucking tennis balls behind their knees. Yeah, let's go back to that shit. Let's do that. Like, I think people say that, and I know what they mean. They mean like it's getting soft and it's getting mainstream. They don't like that. And it's like it's getting mainstream, but it's making a lot of you people that don't want it mainstream a lot of money because you're coaching clients, you're selling T-shirts, you're doing whatever you're doing, and you're pissed about it. But you want it to change, and you built a brand on that, but like it's helping you make a living. And I think when people start realizing that, like it's just interesting to me, I guess.
That's the same thing that happened with weightlifting. It blew up 5 years. Like I opened this up 5 years ago. Immediately came with USAW Club, and saw the writing on the wall, obviously. And we have a shit ton of lifters. We have a great weightlifting team, but so many of the old school coaches were just pissed off about CrossFit. That like I would have coaches in here who 78-year-old Charlie Jones, love the guy. But he would just talk.
He's at the gym at Maple when I was at.
Oh yeah.
He'd always ask me if I was going to squat down to full depth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he would just talk mad shit about stuff. And I'm like, Charlie, just let it go, man. Like,
But at the same time, I appreciate his pride because in his heyday, that's what it was. Like he.
no, for sure.
He was one of the
He
first dudes to
still,
put like
Yeah.
500 over his head, wasn't he? Or something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
he
he
had all the neck surgeries, and he walked in here pridefully with 2 canes.
Yeah.
And sits down just to yell at somebody else.
Oh
he
yeah,
tried
he's
to
still
do
a
that.
great coach and knows plenty, but then there's plenty that he's so stubborn on them. That's his cross to bear.
We've all been what I tell people is we've evolved in a positive way in a lot of ways in weightlifting, where it's like we've learned that tennis balls behind the knees is not a good idea.
Well, not only that,
we've learned
like-
that maybe we should build racks that are stable so that people don't almost die walking the squats in, stuff like that.